To the global fight over technology and trade, China pushing back after computer machinery maker ASML says it was barred by the Dutch government from exporting some of its tools to China. And these are highly sought-after systems used in the production of semiconductors. China criticized the move and said the Netherlands, where ASML is headquartered, should be impartial and respect market principles. Joining us now on this and the state of U.S. China relationship is former U.S. Ambassador to China Gary Locke. He also served as Commerce Secretary and the Governor of Washington. Gary, thanks so much for joining us. So China called this move by the Dutch government bullying by the U.S. This was, I guess, part of an agreement that the U.S., Japan, and the Netherlands had made about semiconductor processes. How serious do you think the Chinese government takes this? Is this a little bit of saber rattling, or is this something that could escalate?
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me on. This is serious, but this is really very predictable because the United States, along with some of our key allies, such as Japan, Korea, and like you indicated, the Netherlands, have already restricted some of the most sophisticated machines used in the manufacturing of these chips, prohibited them from actually being sold to China. So this is an extension of that prohibition, the blanket or the type of machines that cannot be sold. And this is really the continuation of a chip war with China. The United States does not want China to be able to design or manufacture their own chips, highly sophisticated chips. We're not selling some of our advanced chips made by either NVIDIA or Qualcomm and others to China. So we're really trying to force China not to have access to some of these advanced chips that they might use for military purposes or for advanced computing, which would rival the United States and pose a threat to our national security.
And one of the big questions for the global economy, and in part the U.S. economy this year, will be the Chinese economy. There was evidence in the fourth quarter that we saw, continued slowdown in manufacturing, in investment, in youth unemployment. And I thought it was interesting, President Xi Jinping made a speech over the weekend in which he sort of conceded some weakness in the economy, saying that the businesses are struggling, job seekers are having trouble finding work. This is a leader who always likes to project power and minimize the economic situation in China. What do you read into that?
Well, there's a lot of domestic unrest in China right now because of these very things that you mentioned: high unemployment, slow growth in the economy, downturn in the property sector. And then as a result, local governments are not receiving the revenues that they need, and many of their workers are going unpaid. So there's a lot of unrest throughout China because of the economy. And if the president of China were to ignore that and simply paint a very optimistic picture, then I think it threatens his own credibility, the notion that he is out of touch with the Chinese people. So he needed to acknowledge that. At the same time, the Chinese government is trying to prop up the economy, even on the issue of chips, really supporting companies to start designing chips, to be able to make their own machines, to manufacture these chips, knowing that the Western powers, the United States and others, are beginning to starve them of the chips that they want.
Yeah, and some of the China bulls say, look, the Chinese government has so many more tools that it can use to stimulate growth. It can deploy the central bank more. It can perhaps start to fund local governments more. I'm starting to wonder whether it's just not a policy priority right now, or more importantly, they just can't. They don't have the financial room right now to stimulate. What do you think the government's ability right now is to help stimulate growth, and can we look for more of that this year?
You're going to see more measures by the central government to stimulate the growth, but part of the downturn is caused by the world recession and the slowdown of the world economy, because China is still heavily dependent on exporting their manufactured goods all around the world, and when there's less demand in Europe or the United States, or because of the tariffs, then China produces less. And if they produce less, they don't need as many workers, and that's leading to the high unemployment. Nonetheless, China does have some tools within its toolbox, but the problem is that the private sector now in China is reacting to being whipsawed by the actions of the Chinese government. First, encouraging the Chinese companies to innovate, to go bold, to expand, and then the Chinese government and officials will say, "Oh, what? We don't like what you're doing," and then they're reining them in, which then causes loss of investor confidence in many of the sectors of China.
Yeah, we saw that 180 with the video games policy, which they imposed and then pulled back, and then the official that was in charge of that was fired. So interesting to watch all that.